Now let's get into some less positive redesigns. To be honest, I didn't really have much of a point to get across with the Mario section. I just thought it would be fun. Now I want to get some points across. Let's talk about Pac-Man. Pac-Man's original design is one of the most iconic in video games, but since it's super abstract, Namco needed something to represent the weird pizza-shaped creature for promotional material, and Tadashi Yamashita was put up to the task. Originally, he created a design resembling the one that would be used in the Hanna-Barbera cartoon, but the finalized version has the super iconic pie-eyed design that we all know and love. Though I only recently noticed, he has these weird things around his limbs. But this design is classic, and one of the first video game designs to be influenced by classic cartoon characters. It's such an obvious place to take influence from, as video games are basically animation anyways. This design set the precedent for how so many video game heroes would be designed in the 80s and 90s. But I think what people miss is that Pac-Man isn't just cute, he's also cool. Like, take this art for Pac-N-Pal featuring him roller skating while listening to headphones. He looks so cool. This particular piece of artwork is so good, in fact, it was used for the cover of the Famicom Pac-Man. And then 6 years later, it was used for the Game Boy version's cover. I know people complain about reusing art these days, but if it's something this appealing and it's used in this way, there's really no problem with it. I could gush about it more, but I don't have much else to actually say, so I think we should move on to how the character was localized. I already mentioned the cartoon, but I'm trying to stick to video game stuff in this video. When Pac-Man was brought over to America, they redesigned the character. It's unknown who did this art, unfortunately, but I kinda like it. It's nowhere near as good as the Japanese art, but what is? My only real complaint with it is that for so long I looked at it and wondered, where's Pac-Man? Yeah, he looks too much like a ghost. In fact, I bet a lot of you were probably confused, wondering the same thing. Later, they would use another design based more on the Japanese one, but more round and with a sort of painted style that I'm not fond of. I definitely understand some people are nostalgic for it, but I've always been a line art supremacist. This design was actually done by Greg Martin, a name that enthusiasts on this topic are certainly familiar with. But after this, they transitioned the classic design into 3D. This design was very easy to transition into 3D, as there's an obvious distinction between his shapes and textures, so not much to say here. It seemed everything was perfectly fine, and Pac-Man's design mostly remained the same it had been since Pac-Man. Except in Pac-Man 2, where they gave it sclera. But in 2010, they decided, nah, we need to adapt Pac-Man to 3D by giving him more detail. And in Pac-Man Party, they introduced this design that gives him blue irises. Why did Pac-Man's design need more detail? For some reason, eyes are always the first thing I notice in a design, and I don't really know why. But I think this is not bad, but not a very good design. I didn't really bring up Mario characters' eyes or their irises too often because those characters are perfectly designed around having them and have been since Super Mario Bros. Pac-Man isn't. It doesn't ruin the design, but it makes it not as good as the original because the original design is so inherently simple that adding detail to it is pointless. I genuinely want to know what you guys think. It doesn't make Pac-Man more expressive or anything. I get the sclera adds some expressiveness, but why give his eyes color? But while I'm on the topic, I wouldn't compare Pac-Man to a certain other character who was redesigned with irises who I'll get to later, as I think most of Pac-Man's expressiveness comes from his mouth. Kind of obvious given the whole, A tweaked version of this design was used in the Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures stuff and eventually dropped when they just realized the classic design was better. That didn't stop them from redesigning the character again with Shadow Labyrinth, the best name of all time. Though, technically this isn't exactly Pac-Man, this is Puck. Puck looks cool, it's kinda just a Pac-Man shaped robot, so not bad, and the design itself doesn't sacrifice any of the iconicity of Pac-Man. But honestly, Puck here isn't even the best dark Pac-Man. Namco already tried this idea with this enemy from Baraduke in 1985. Now that's sick. That felt like somebody actually just wanted to make a creepy Pac-Man looking thing and not just like, hey guys, you know what would be funny?